Hello everyone and welcome to today's workshop. Today we are going to be creating a virtual machine on the cloud. So we are currently in this Azure environment now, and we are going to come here to create a resource. So from this environment here now, we can already see that it has here a virtual machine. I did mean what we're looking for wasn't here. We'll just use the search option here to look for the resource we're looking for and create that resource. So we're going to click on create, and it's going to take us to a portion where we are going to configure the properties for our virtual machine. So if you work in an environment that has multiple subscriptions, you can always choose the subscription in which you want to build your virtual machine into. But for my environment, I have just one subscription, and that is what I'll be using. So like I'd said in one of our previous trainings, you can't create a resource on Azure without putting that resource in a resource group. So if you don't have a resource group, you can click here on create new to add a resource group, but we have a resource group already, so we are just going to click choose our resource group and continue. So the next option here is for your virtual machine to be given a name, and I'm just going to give my virtual machine a name. Let's call this FLXDC. The DC here stands for domain controller because I'm actually planning on building a server. So we are here in the region option, and depending on where you want to assign your virtual machine to based on the region, you can always choose either of them here. And also, if you work in an organization where there are things like policies that would demand you to create your virtual machine in a certain place, it will mean that you won't be able to create your virtual machines outside of where the policies mandate you to. So I'm just going to click ECUS because it's a very reliable zone. And I'm also asked here for availability options, and these are all things we'll talk about in subsequent trainings, or just for us to have a brief run through of them of what it means. So if I should click on availability zone now, it will mean that if I should create a virtual machine now, my virtual machines will be created in three different zones, or different zones I should say. And what this would help in doing is that if one zone goes down, my virtual machine can still function because it's still available in two other zones, meaning that it's very useful for fault tolerance and maintaining high availability of resources on the cloud. And the second one here is virtual machine scale set. So virtual machine scale set simply is just a service that allows you to deploy and manage a group of identical load balanced virtual machines. So it is designed to support applications that need to scale out in or demand, ensuring high availability and performance. So that's what it means. Then the next one here is availability set. And availability set simply is a logical grouping of virtual machines designed to ensure that your virtual machines remain available during planned or unplanned maintenance events. So if you should use an availability set in order to create your virtual machines will be created in different racks logically, meaning that if one rack is affected because of power or update or maintenance or whatsoever, it means that your virtual machines in other racks would still be able to function fully. So, but we are not going to use any of these. We are just going to leave it here at no infrastructure redundancy required. So the next thing we are going to do now is for us to choose an image. So the image here is more like the operating system in which you want to use in running your virtual machine. And we can see here we have Ubuntu, we have several images here. I'm going to be using Windows Server 2022 data center. So if you have an Azure Spot discount, you can always apply that here. So what are we going to do next now? You understand sizes for virtual machines. You can always choose the sizes here depending on what you are mandated to by the organization, or what will best suit your need at the moment in time. So I'm just going to leave it here, and I'll come here. So we're going to create an administrator account for our virtual machine. We're going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this, let's call this FLX dev, right? And you're also going to add a password, right? So this will mean that when you want to access a virtual machine, it's going to ask for a username and a password, and when it asks for those, this is what you will use to log into your machine. So another thing you need to understand is port rules. So port rules here are simply just ways and manner in which you want to access your virtual machine, and the inbound port rule will mean that how do I want to manage traffic coming into my virtual machine, onto my virtual computer. So if we put it here at none, it will mean that public inbound port is disabled, meaning that anybody trying to contact our virtual machines over the public internet won't be able to, because we have disabled it here. But we are going to allow this because we are going to use the public port to access our virtual machine. So this here is a list of several ports in which you can use to access your virtual machine, but I'm going to be using RDP, and RDP here is simply remote desktop protocol 3389, and we're going to be using our public IP, which we shall see subsequently, to access our virtual machine using this RDP port. You can read about the other ports: HTTP, HTTPS, secure shell, hashing. So we're just going to leave it here, and we're going to go to the next thing, which is disk. So we're going to select a disk for our virtual machine. I'm going to leave it here on the default disk here, which is 127 GB, and the disk type here, or storage disk type here, is premium secure state drive. There are other kinds of disk type for you to use readily available to you. You can use HDD, which is hard disk drive. We are going to leave that there and continue. So you can create and attach a new disk if you want to. You can also attach an existing disk. Let's say maybe you had a previous disk somewhere on your cloud environment. You can always attach that disk, and when you attach that disk, it's going to be the information and data that was on the previous disk when you attach that disk to your new virtual machine. You can also create and attach a new one, but from here we can see that this VM also comes with a temporary disk, meaning that even if we go ahead to create this virtual machine, there's already a disk attached to this virtual machine. So the next thing here we're going to do is networking. For virtual network, I made a video already about virtual networks, how to create virtual networks, but creating private IPs and also subnetting those IPs. I have a video. I'm going to link that video to this particular post. But let's just say we want to go ahead and create a virtual machine. Already Azure is going to assign a virtual network to our machine. But had it been we had already created a virtual network, we can easily just choose the network from here, right, and do what we want to do with it. But since we didn't create, we'll just go ahead and use the one given to us by Azure. So this is also the subnet. Subnet is just a logical division of a network into different logical parts. Then we also need a public IP. You can create a new one if you want to. Alright, you can also choose from a list of public IPs if you already created one previously. So what we are going to use a public IP to do is that our public IP will be the means in which we will use to access our virtual machine over the internet. And our network security group, our NIC network security group, NIC here stands for Network Interface Card. So what our network interface card does is that it holds the information about our virtual network which would include our private IP and our public IP. So that's what it does. So I'm just going to leave it on basic. Public inbound ports, we're also going to leave it on allowed selected ports, so which is our DP like we have chosen before. So I'm going to select this, and what that means is that when I delete public IP and NIC when VM is deleted, so when my virtual machine is deleted, it means that automatically my public IP and NIC, which holds my private IP, will be deleted also. Load balancing options, these are advanced stuff, we'll talk about them subsequently. So we're just going to click on next. You can always come here to read and see what you want to do around here. So like auto shutdown, let's say you want your machine to be shutting down by itself without you having to come to shut it down. You can always click here, put the time, choose your time zone. It's going to shut down by itself. You can also enable backup if you want to, and guess operating system updates. You can also do all of these depending on what the policy is for your organization. So let's go to monitoring. So you can also create alerts to monitor different alerts on our virtual machines. So these alerts could come in terms of CPU usage, could also come in terms of cost or whatever the metric you want to use is, but I don't want this for now. So advanced, click our virtual machine and install. So let's just go to next. So tags here is just a way of identifying resources or grouping resources based on different criteria, maybe by department, by region, by location, or whatsoever it is. Or let's just leave that and review. And so from what you can see here is that we have seen that all validation has been passed, and you can see the warning like I said earlier. We have set RDP ports open to the internet. This is only recommended for testing. If you want to change this setting, go back to the basics tab. So we're going to leave that here. This is the cost of our virtual machine hourly. So guys, let's create our virtual machine and access this virtual machine now. So we can see that our deployment is currently in progress, right? So guys, we can see that our virtual machine has been created successfully, and we can now go ahead to access our virtual machine. So we can just go here to click on go to resource and see what's happening with our virtual machine. So for us to connect to our virtual machine, we are going to click on connect. You can already see here that the virtual machine is running, right? You can click here to restart. You can also click here to stop. So what we want to do is we want to access our virtual machine now. So we are going to need our public IP to be able to access our virtual machine, and this is our public IP address which I have copied. So let's just click here on connect to our virtual machine. So this is a public IP here. We've been shown this, so we can copy that. So we can easily just download the RDP file and open it, right? Or we can simply just open the remote desktop on our local machine and put in our public IP and access the virtual machine. So let's do that here. So we can see that we've been asked for username now, which I'm just going to put, then also our password. So I'm just going to paste our password now and continue. Okay, so guys, we're about signing into our virtual machine now. I'm just going to click on yes and continue. So guys, we have successfully built or configured our virtual machine on the cloud, and we can now access our virtual machine on our local computer. So guys, this is our server, our virtual machine server, which we just created now, and you can see here that it just has everything a normal computer would have. We can go ahead to configure our server and turn this to a server, maybe create other client virtual machines and attach them to this virtual server here and all of those. So guys, this is the end of our workshop today. So guys, I'll call it an end here. Thank you.